gets much easier, but still very exhausting. Yeah.
Yeah, I could imagine that. It's so different, and you're right. Like you still have to do so much, and then when you're done doing that, you still have to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and actually, that's something that I really advocate for parents, and especially for moms. Is really, it's not like, taking care of ourselves is not about just, a luxury that we do sometimes. It's really something we have to be able to include in every single day, because we cannot be a good parent or a good person or a good wife or a good partner or a good with ourselves if we don't take care of ourselves. It's a bit like in the planes. You have to first put on your oxygen mask before you can put in, and with parenting is definitely that way. So next time you think like, oh no, I don't have time to take care of myself. Yeah, you have to have time to take care of yourself. That's like priority.
I know, or it's like being like a grandparent, right? Where you take care of the kids for a few hours, and you're like, here, I've had enough, and you send them back to the sender, right? So I guess
Yeah.
I'm a grandparent without any children. I'll take care of your children, but after a couple of hours, here, take them back, please. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm not a grandmother, but I can imagine that must be very relaxing, right? Because you already went through everything. You're already much more relaxed. It's also not your kids, so you don't really have to care about really discipline or all that. You can just, be the cool one. And I'm sure it's amazing be a grandparent. And I think it's great in those societies where you have like a big family and everyone is together and everyone helps each other. And it would be great if we could all have that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you just say, okay, you know what? Every birthday or every Christmas, you give $50. You know, you take care of them. You come over once a month, you play with them. You probably have a brand new shiny toy. And 2 or 3 hours, you're like, I'm free. You go back to a quiet house. It's always clean,
Hmm.
right? It's just you. That's like the ideal life. But we're going to help parents get there because that's something that you work with parents to do when it comes to the parenting strategy and changing maybe the way they view parenting. So, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell our audience a little bit about who you are and, of course, where they can find you.
So, hello, everyone who's listening. My name is Cristina, and I'm a mom. I have a 4-year-old son, and I am also a positive discipline educator. So, what I do is I help parents of little kids ages 3 to 6 how to parent in a way that is both kind and firm while keeping your sanity. It's basically that. And if anyone listening has a small child between the ages of 3 and 6, and you want to be in a supporting community, I have a group on Facebook. It's called Parents of Preschoolers. So I welcome everyone to join us.
Perfect. So, take us right from the beginning. How did well, I don't want to ask how you became a parent. I think we all know how children are made, right? Let me rephrase this question before I get canceled this morning. Describe your parenting journey to us, and ultimately, why did you want to become a parent?
Yeah, so it was, I'm going to be very honest here. I didn't really have that calling that so many people have, that I'm going to have 20 kids. And since I was a little girl, I always want to be a mom. That didn't happen to me. It was more that I knew that I would regret it deeply if I wasn't a mom. I knew that I wanted to have that meaning in my life, because life has just so much more meaning when you have a child, right? Everything has more meaning. Your life, I think I knew that I wanted this in my life. I just wanted it as late as possible. I was like, I'm enjoying my life. Me and my husband, we had a great life. We traveled a lot. We really had a great relationship, and I knew that everything would change because it just changes. So in some ways for better, some ways for worse, as everything in life. And I didn't want that. I wanted it to continue having this great life I had before. And so we postponed it really until, okay. And by the time I was 37, we were like, okay, now we should do it because we might still want to have a second one, which in the meanwhile, we were like, no, one is already enough for us. Because as an older parent, I think you also, on one hand, you have a lot more patience. So I think that's a good thing. But on the other hand, your body has less energy. It's you know, just I see those moms who are 20 years old. And I remember when I was 20 and I went out at night and the next day I could go straight to work. And nowadays it's 10 in the evening and I have to sleep. So your whole body is just your metabolism, you're just not ready so much to be behind the child that is waking up every 2 hours. And so, yeah, in the end, we decided to just have just one. But yeah, that's how we became parents. That's how I became a mom. It was not because I was born and since I was a little girl, I wanted to have a kid, but it was something I definitely knew I wanted. But if nature would allow me, I would have waited 20 years more.
I know here in Canada we have a lot of people are less people are getting married and less people are having multiple children. Like gone are the days where you'd have a family where there's like three, four, or five kids. And one of the main reasons is that they're waiting later on in life because there's still so much they want to do. And the fact that so many more people are in college university and they're navigating their life in a different way, it postpones getting pregnant. Like to your point, right? Like there was a time, maybe like your parents and maybe your grandparents, by like 22, 23, they already had like two kids, three kids, right? There's like an army of these people. Now it's more like it's just the one. And I always look at my life and I want to have children early on, right? I was like, okay, Terrain, when you finish university and you get that degree, whoever you find, you're gonna get them pregnant. Right? I was so eager. And then, like you, I began to see life in a different way. There's things that I wanted to do, there's things I want to grow into. And I always felt there was like this disconnect between people who are so pro family, who, let's say, before 30, they had three or four kids. And then there was like maybe you and I and your husband who were thinking, okay, I'm ready. I want to have at least one. And you're okay just having one. Do you see maybe a disconnect between the two between the two groups of people, one who want to have so many kids, and maybe they look at us and be like, are you sure you just want one? Have two more, have three more.
I think like so one thing that I'm always telling parents is that everyone has different opinions. It's just the way it is. And that's something also I teach my child and that I believe everyone should teach their children. You will never have everyone agree with you. There will always be people that will have a different view of life. And because we hold on so tightly to our own opinions, we tend to criticize other people's opinions when they are different from ours. And so this unfortunately happens a lot that moms, especially, criticize other moms. Okay, you became a mom too late, and because maybe I'm a bit jealous that you lived your life before, and because I see all the advantages of me being a young mom, I will say it was wrong what you did. And now, and sometimes, and this of course then creates all the mom guilt, right? Sometimes I also feel this mom guilt, like, oh, when I am 60, my son will be 20. I am retiring. And right now, my parents are now 65, so I see like how it is. And that's kind of sad, right? And maybe we die and before my son gets married and gets his own family. And all these things make me sad. But I think that the child deserves to come into this world because we want that child. And if that happens when you're in your 20s, that's great. It will have its advantages and its disadvantages. If I had a kid when I was 20, I would not be into this gentle parenting thing. I would probably be spanking my kid. I'm going to be very honest here because I had zero patience. I can see now that I have really grown. I improved myself. I worked a lot on my self growth throughout the years. I didn't know anything about meditation or any of those things when I was 20. I just wanted to go out at night. So I think that you need to be ready for it and want it. And if that happens when you're young, it's great. If it happens when you're old, it's great. But the most important thing is that you want your child, because it's so sad when people have kids they don't want, right?
Yeah, I look at if I had a kid when I was in my 20s, I think me and that child would be homeless at this point, right? Probably face down somewhere out living outside of a restaurant. But then you have the alternative, right? Like, do I want to wait until I'm 60 to have my first child? And then when I'm 80, the child is 20, or worse yet, when I'm 65 and retired, and I'm like, yes, it's my time now. My child is 5. Right. But you raised a good point where you have children when you want to have children because you're ready. I think a lot of people, they fall into this mindset where life is like a checklist. Like, okay, I'm 18 years old. I'm gonna spend a couple years in college university. I'm 22. Check number one. I've graduated school. Now I gotta look to my left, look to my right. Who am I gonna marry? Okay, I gotta do it in 2 to 3 years. Aha. That girl that used to sit beside me, that used to tease me in school, she actually did like me. So you get married. Checklist number one. And then within a year, we have to have that child. Right. So by the time you're 26, 27, you already have your family set. But I think what a lot of people forget is that they don't ask themselves, is this my checklist for my life? Or am I living the life of someone else that has been given to me? And I think that's where the disconnect is. Is that something that you would agree with?
I think that this is not just with parenting. I think it's with everything, and it comes a lot, in my opinion, from the way society is and the way the school system is. We are all meant to fit into a box, and we are raised that way, that we have to fit into this box. And I've realized, and I'm still learning, that the key to life is when you find out in what ways you are not inside that box, in what ways are you yourself, are you really following your passions? Are you really living the life you want to live? Not because other people think it's the right life, but because of what you want. And very often we don't even know what we want, right? Because we were so indoctrinated our whole lives, right? So I think this is not just with parenting, it's with everything. This is something that everyone, the world would be such a better place if everyone would leave the box. And unfortunately, it's so sad that the school system is so hard trying to put everyone in the box, right?
Yeah, they don't see outside of it, right? The box has become their reality. And when you try to show them what is outside of the box, they're like, ooh, that's scary. I know inside the box. Inside the box is safe. It's comfortable. I know this evil. Outside, it's kind of scary, Christina. I don't want to go outside. Can I just stay inside the box where it's nice and safe? And you mentioned like you're into the parenting and you compared that if you had a child earlier on, your parenting style would be different. And you made a point where you mentioned the different types of parenting. I know you shared with me gentle parenting. So take us through that. How does that work and what is it? And um, how has it changed your life?
So I'm just going to start by saying that gentle parenting is just a word. Like there's many different words to say the same thing. Some people call it conscious parenting. Some people call it positive parenting. Some people call it uh, how is it, respectful parenting. There's so many different names, but they all basically mean the same thing. So when you think about it as if it was a quadrant, right? And on the y-axis, and I hope I'm not being too math here, it's just just a quadrant. On the y-axis, you have being really very, very attuned to your child, being very helpful, being very into their emotions, helping, supporting their emotions, so being very kind. And when you go to the bottom of that y-axis, you have the parents that are not kind at all. And then on the x-axis, you have on the left side those parents that are not firm at all, let their kids do everything. And on the right side, you have the parents that are very, very strict and impose really strict boundaries. So then you have basically your screen divided in four, right? And on the bottom left, you will have those parents that are not kind and they are also not firm. And this is called neglectful parenting. And I think we all know this, right? These are those parents who are just like, you know what, I can't deal with this right now. You do whatever you want. I'm not there to support you emotionally, but I'm also not there to impose any boundaries. I just have my own life, my own problems. You go and, I don't care. You want to ruin the whole house.